And hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show for Easter and Passover. And hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. My name is Rich.
And I'm Gary.
How you doing, Gary Mack?
I'm good, Rich. How are you?
All right, very good on an Easter Sunday morning and Passover holiday weekend. One of my favorite holidays. The signaling of spring, and it's nice and morning time, so I'm in the breakfast nook.
Well, nice to see you there. I'm in the studio. I dragged my butt out of bed and out to the studio today, but nice to be on with you on this Easter Sunday, and happy Passover to all of our Jewish friends out there. And Rich, I know it's supposed to be spring, but they're talking about 2 to 4 inches of snow tomorrow. So I don't know. I've had enough of the snow, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that the kids will be looking for Easter eggs
In the
this
drift.
morning around parks and different places like that. And tomorrow they'll have the snow shovels and be making snowballs. And
And maybe doing a little sleigh riding in those same parks.
yeah, that's really something. It's just the winter that won't let its grip up on us. I know we're watching a lot of baseball now. Looks great coming from different areas of the country, but yeah, me and Gary are still um, having it tough here in the Northeast, facing yet another storm, and just as long as it's not a nor'easter, Gary.
Yes, and your Phillies are coming to New York, so I hope we don't get snowed out Monday.
Yeah, that's amazing. Phillies opening up on the road and then traveling for your home opener in New York. So, what's the buzz around there? Is it really buzzing now that the Mets had a pretty good start?
It's very positive. I got to tell you, I'm very upbeat about this team. I know it's only 2 games into the season, but very, very upbeat. Just seems like it's a whole breath of fresh air, a whole new environment. With the new manager Mickey Callaway, it just seems there seemed to be, and then nothing against Terry Collins, but there seemed to be a lot of, I don't know what you call it, nail biting or just angst around the team, and now there just seems to be more of a positive attitude, and it's just refreshing, and sometimes a change will do that, and he's a younger guy, he's 42, the manager, and seems to be well liked by everybody, and so far he's handled the press. Of course, he's 2-0, so we'll have to see if he loses 5 in a row what happens. But the team looks real good. The pitching looks good, and off to a good start. How about your manager down there in Philly?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Gary. Of course, first year manager, Gabe Kapler. He's a rah rah type of guy. He's not too far removed from the game, but he's somebody that's into fitness. He looks, a lot of people say he looks more in shape than most of his players. And he wears a low number, which is odd too for a manager. He wears number 22, but the other night, he had a pitching change on the mound for the Phillies. The only problem was the bullpen never was alerted that uh, they needed a relief pitcher up. So Kapler went out to the mound. He took the ball from his starting pitcher. Everybody looked at one another, and all of a sudden they realized that there was no reliever warming up at the time.
Oh my God! Didn't he talk to his pitching coach at all?
I guess he assumed that possibly the pitching coach had been alerted the bullpen. He After the game he took full responsibility, but very embarrassing there that he ends up on all the highlight reels. MLB Network just had a brief story about it. But funny enough, the Braves manager got thrown out of the game over this whole event that happened last night. He protested. He went out onto the field because the umpire allowed Kapler to have his relief pitcher take warm up pitches, which he actually shouldn't have done, but that was the ruling on the field, and the Braves manager came out, Mr. Snitker, his name is. I'm not familiar with him at all, but little follies there. Although the Braves pulled away with a 15-2 victory over the Phillies. So
So I'm. How many relief pitches did he let him have? How many, warm up pitches?
well, let's see.
He'd be entitled to the 8, no matter what.
Yeah, he would be entitled to the 8. Let's see. Under the new pace of play rules implemented for the 2018 rather, which we don't like, by the way, most of them. I know Gary and I have told you our feelings about them. Pitchers are no longer guaranteed 8 warm-up pitches between innings or when they enter the game, but instead are given a time limit. By rule, a pitching change in a locally televised game should be completed in no more than 2 minutes and 5 seconds. So now they're on a tight schedule, Gary. It's almost like a train schedule they're keeping here.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'm just looking at the article now. Wow. I think it's going to be a long season in Philly. I thought they might be on the right track here, but I don't know. I always thought that was a strange choice as a manager. I don't know what your thoughts are with that, but
Well, yeah, his road to the managerial spot wasn't a typical one. I think he's good for motivation. Whether or not he should have been hired as a manager at this point, I'm not sure. Time will tell on that. Certainly embarrassing. I mean, you don't expect these things to happen right off the bat. I've seen it before though with the Phillies when they played in Washington a couple of years ago. Um, the bullpen phone was off the hook out there for some reason, and they couldn't physically call the bullpen to have the pitcher warm up. They started raising towels in the dugout in the direction of the bullpen, and things like this are going to happen. But 15-2 losses are very hard to take. So we'll have to keep an eye on this with the Phillies, but all over the major leagues, Gary. There was a great fanfare in the past week as MLB returned to the center stage. Shoshani Otani is set to make his Angels debut tonight, I believe, on Easter. Actually, let's see here.
well, he's going to make history tonight.
Yeah.
He is going to pitch. He did play opening day as the DH,
Mm-hmm.
and he is going to make his first start on the mound. He's a two-way player, and he's going to make his start on the mound Sunday against the A's. It's scheduled for 4:05 our time, 1:05 California time, and he will become the first major league player to start as a non-pitcher on opening day, and then start as a pitcher within his team's first 10 games since Babe Ruth with the Red Sox in 1919. So almost 100 years ago. This is the last time this has been done. And, this is going to be interesting because if he can make it, it's going to open up a whole thing to. There are some other two-way players. I know Hudson Valley Renegades had a player, Tampa Bay system team had a guy whose name escaped me last year. they drafted that was played in the College World Series. He was a pitcher and a first baseman. Actually pitched them into the playoffs last year, and they're going to let him go two-way for a while and see what happens. So Otani could open up a lot of doors here again, and we could be seeing a whole new thing in baseball.
Yes, we could. I mean, a pitcher that can hit, that's sort of unheard of. A lot of the talk around Philadelphia was with the first game for Aaron Nola, which is, he's supposed to be a fixture on the Phillies for a few years. Not necessarily the ace since we got Arrieta, but he only went 5 1/3 innings, I believe, and that was by design. They didn't want him to go any further than that. So, yeah, you got a pitcher here from Japan that's also a hitter. I think it's a great thing for baseball. It takes you out of the mold of these pitchers being like porcelain for some reason.
And it helps your versatility in one of those extra inning games. If you got a guy that's the DH, and then all of a sudden you can put him on the mound. Yeah, you lose the DH, but if he's hitting, you don't lose anything. So it does open up some possibilities. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. It is such a grind, and it is such a grinding game, and a difficult game at that level, that you would think it would be tough going down the road to do both. I mean, even Babe Ruth just went one way after a few years. So and that was, like we said, almost 100 years ago. That amazes me, just saying that 100 years ago, 99 years ago. When we talk about the Babe Ruth, and I think about him, it doesn't seem possible. It's 100 years ago. But it'll be an interesting thing about that.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to hear new things happen in baseball, positive things, things that aren't associated with changing the game necessarily, but firsts and things like that. Over 100 Japanese media members, and I'm quoting this from an MLB.com article, uh, on hand for this game. Um, and they're going to follow Otani around. That's sort of what I like about Japanese players as well, is they have a large contingent of media people from Japan that follow these guys around. They'll also be broadcasting the game live in Japan, and that first pitch will take place at 5:05 a.m. on Monday morning. So about 13 hours difference ahead of time from New York time. It'll be 5:05 a.m. for the first pitch, and I'll bet you a lot of people will get up and watch that in Japan.
Oh, I'm sure they will, because they're baseball crazy there. And Ichiro, they used to get up to watch his game, so I'm sure they're going to be there, especially this history making game and all. So, oh yeah, yeah, they'll get a big audience there on the TV watching that game.
Yes, indeed. So, our special podcast here on Easter. I'm sure a lot of people will be going out to the ballpark today on Sunday here. Just a great time to be a baseball fan. And my wife just walked in with an Easter basket for the grandchildren. So it's going to be a fun day for me as well today. And do you have any Easter traditions, Gary?
No, not really. Not so much anymore. We used to do stuff, but not as much now. As you get older, things kind of calm down, and we don't have grandchildren or anything. So our daughter will probably join us, but I was just thinking, I've never been to a game or a sporting event on a holiday. Have you ever done anything like? Have you ever been to a ball game on an Easter, or anything? Maybe a hockey game or something in the uh, not on Easter, in I don't know, July the 4th. Never went to a July 4th baseball game. Never went to Easter. Never went Mother's Day, Father's Day. What else is there that you could So Labor Day, never went on Labor Day. I always tried to go on different days. As you change the location there,
Yes, my wife my wife just shooed me out of the breakfast nooks.
your wife wants breakfast. It's understandable. So, um,
So she didn't know I was in the Breakfast Nook podcasting, and that's the beauty about podcasting, especially when you have a laptop. You can be very mobile.
yes, and we are learning all sorts of mobility things now with you being in cigar stores and doing it from your car and
Museums.
now from the breakfast nook to the living room. Very impressive, Rich. Very
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah, I'm very adaptable. As we were talking before the show, I did a Phillies Talk podcast from a museum in Philadelphia that has one of the area's best collections, and I want to say almost one of the best collections in the country of independently owned sports memorabilia. I'm talking Babe Ruth, a lot of Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, and Eagles memorabilia, and a lot of boxing. It's called the DePachi Sports Museum right outside of Philadelphia. So if you get a chance, tune into my Phillies Talk YouTube channel, and you can see a little bit of that. But Gary, I think it would be great for us to get together one time down there, and they're very amiable to have podcasts done at the location. So maybe this might be an opportunity for us to maybe do a show before we go to say like a Phillies Mets game and have a nice day of it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see, Rich. I'm looking to retirement, so I may be able to do more things. Because then there's the money issue.
Right, right.
It's always something, But yeah, that would be great. We could go do a little podcast and head out to see a game, and we'll have to keep that on the back burner.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of money, if you want to sponsor the show, give us a little donation every month. We'd love to have your donation. Go over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/baseball talk. You can sponsor us for a couple bucks a month, about a cup of coffee or so, to keep this podcast going. We've had one long time Patreon subscriber, and I want to reach out to him and thank him. I know they listen every week to the show, so I want to tip my cap to him and invite a lot more people to jump on the bandwagon and help Gary and I do special things for you. If you'd like to have us go to a game, for example, or have some live podcasts like a lot of the other baseball talk radio shows do. The Cubs one does some remote things. The LA Dodgers one goes down to spring training. Just head on over to our website. It's mlbthisweek.com, and you can link to our Patreon page from there. You can also um, listen to our podcast right from there and find our YouTube page. So, mlbthisweek.com. And Gary, part of the of getting back to baseball is talking baseball with a lot of fans. I know when I wear my hat around town, I know inevitably there's going to be a conversation or two about baseball. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, it's amazing. I agree. I was at the 7-Eleven yesterday and picking up something, and guy was online in front of me and saw my hat, and we just started talking about the Mets and how we think this season's going to go, and so it does embrace or cause people to chat a little bit about the game, and I don't think I see that as much with other sports. I think baseball's just, they can say what they want about football, but I think it's baseball's just a different mentality, and I really think it's still a national pastime, though people don't want to admit it as much because it's slow, it's slow. No, you're just not smart enough to understand it. Maybe then, if you think it's slow, it's the perfect game for the pace of summer. We've said this many times. How growing up, you could be walking along the beach and hear the broadcast of a game going from blanket to blanket. People used to have radios and they'd listen to the ball games and it's just a nice pace for the summer. Summer you like to slow down a little bit, relax, and the game fits in, and that's why I get a little upset sometimes when they want to do these pace of game improvements and everything, and they really don't do anything. I mean, and they miss the boat at what really causes the length of some of the games. So but we'll see. They keep trying to make the game quicker, and I think they end up making it slower.
Yeah, and that the beauty part about baseball is that it is a sport that isn't controlled by time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're slowly trying to creep that into to the sport. I mean, one of the most outrageous rules, and I don't want to segue into this because we can get on the topic and
Talk
ride it
hours.
ride it for the rest of the show. But starting a runner on base for an extra inning game, that's been a proposal, and that would be an absolute farce in my opinion. There's just no more stupid plan than that in my book than doing that.
Well, minor league baseball approved it, so they're actually going to be doing that this year, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's the most ridiculous rule they could ever come up with. It's so unfair. And then here's the thing: if that person scores, it's not going to cost. They're not going to charge it against the pitcher that's in the ERA because they're going to say, in other words, in the scorecards, he's going to be on second base via an error. So, but now are they going to charge an error to the team or what? I don't know. Is it charged error? It's just too confusing. And so then, if he scores, does that mean that pitcher gets the loss? I mean, that doesn't. If you're not going to charge him with the run, why charge him with the loss then?
Exactly. You open up a whole Pandora's box.
Yeah, it's just a dumb rule, and I don't think it's going to make it any. I mean, I understand they want to do away, 20 inning games, and especially in the minors, but then just say we're going to play 12 innings, and if they don't, nobody scores, we call it a tie. If you want to do that in the minor leagues. But I mean, one opening day a couple of years ago to the New York Penn League, the Brooklyn Cyclones, the Staten Island Yankees, and they played. I think it was 21 innings or 20 innings or something, and it was by the end of the game there was like 10 people in the ballpark. It was a lot of fun actually.
Yeah.
And we stayed till the bitter end, and thankfully it was on a Friday night, so didn't have to worry about getting up the next day for anything. But you're going to take that away, and to me, it's an artificial win then for a team if you're putting a guy on second base already.
Yeah, and as you said, it opens up a whole can of worms with tagging a loss on a pitcher. There's so many things that happen in an extra inning game. I mean, I can remember games that last into the early hours of the morning that I've been to, 2 o'clock in the morning, things like that. That is baseball. That's the essence of baseball. Don't try to take that away. I just I think that baseball fans need to band together and start telling baseball that they don't want these changes to the game.
Well, I'm not sure. I do agree. I'm not sure that the fans know what they want though. Even nowadays, I don't. Um, you get the impression sometimes that they just sometimes they want it. I'm telling you, there was a survey done a year or so ago, and it was done at people that watched the game and the people in the ballpark. They did two surveys,
Hmm.
and the people that were in the ballpark don't like the pace of play. They like a slow game because they're getting a dollar's worth then for sitting there. People on television want the game quicker. So, uh, I always say, look, if the game's dragging and you're home watching it on television, then switch to something else for a while and switch back and forth. Um, and again, I don't want to go to the ballpark and be rushed, get the bum rush out of there in an hour and a half or 2 hours. I'm
Exactly.
going there. I want to have a good time.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before. There's so many distractions at the ballpark that it goes by fast enough
Right.
already. You have vendors walking around, you have people getting up and walking down the aisle. You have to get up for them. You may miss a play here or there. But yeah, when you're paying, especially when you're paying the rates that they're starting to charge at the ballpark, you don't want to go in for a 90-minute excursion. You want a nice afternoon of entertainment, and that's what you're paying for, or an evening.
Hell, I feel robbed if I go in and to a movie and it's an hour and 24 minutes. I want a 2 hour movie. At
Yeah,
least, come on, at those prices, the least you could do is make a good story for 2 hours.
with special effects at that,
There you go. Blow up a little something now and then.
right?
Uh,
Well, let's switch gears here a little bit. Looking at the uniforms here, and we'll be talking more about that as the season goes on. Of course, that's one of our topics here we discuss. But if you're watching our YouTube video of the show, you should see a tweet that was sent out with the Astros uniforms. They are going to be wearing these gold accented championship uniforms for their first two home games of the season. And a lot of teams have done this, Gary. The World Series winners, they put them on the field with nice gold uniforms, and there goes another avenue to sell these jerseys for the teams.
yeah, I think this started in I don't know if it was 2014 or 15, but the gold jerseys and that's cool. Like you say, Rich. It's another. That's more of a regional thing. I don't think they're going to sell much across the country, but it's something different. Years ago, I remember some old pictures of the New York Giants, in particular, the baseball Giants there in back in the 20s and maybe even before that, and they would wear a uniform that after winning that would say world champions it said on it. So it's kind of something new and not so new. It's a different twist on that idea, I would say. But I think they're gonna wear them on Sundays or weekends or something like that. It's not an everyday thing that they're going to wear for the year, obviously. But it's a fun thing. It's a little something to strive for. It's a pride thing, and Rich, like you said, I think next week or so we'll have some stories on the rest of the uniforms that Major League Baseball makes to sell product to us with the hats for Father's Day, Mother's Day, July the 4th, you name it, Flag Day, who knows, toilet paper day. I don't. They got a hat for everything, and three hats for the All Star game now. I think so.
Yeah. I love the choices. I remember as a kid growing up, they didn't have the marketing that they do now. They didn't have all these people that sit around, and this is their job to come up and brainstorm ways to add revenue to a baseball team or Major League Baseball in general. And they're doing a wonderful job. I mean, you can walk into a hat store now and get 12 or 15 different varieties of your favorite baseball team's hat alone. So I think it's great. I mean, we grew up in an era where we didn't have these things.
Mm-hmm.
The hats were very stuffy. They were frumpy. They weren't fitted like they are now. A lot of the times, you know, we're just lucky to be in an era with this. In my opinion, I'm happy about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wish the prices were a little bit lower, but yeah, it's great that you can actually purchase these items, and I think years ago it wasn't a thing that people would come dressed to the ballpark in team colors, and then somehow it caught on. And probably in the Midwest, people used to show up to Cardinals games dressed in red, and it just evolved from there into naturally hey, let's make money by licensing these uniforms and these hats, and
Yeah,
people like wearing these things, and now it's blown up to you can get a whole wardrobe stuff. That we had a joke here in my house that I could go like a month wearing a Mets shirt to work
yeah,
and not wearing the same one twice. So
right.
it's pretty amazing the stuff that they've really licensed, and as you say, they really market it now as they never did before.
Yeah, and they have different variety of things. The Nike golf shirts, for example, your Under Armour will be taking over next year with the jerseys and all. So you have a ton of different offerings there, and it's all great stuff. So go out and take advantage of it. Looking over a couple important dates coming up in the baseball world, Gary. April 15th coming up soon. Now, no, it's not tax day, but Jackie Robinson Day coming up soon in baseball. And then looking ahead later in the month here in April, now that it's April 1st already, the Twins and the Indians will be playing in San Juan, Puerto Rico, April 17th and 18th. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, another series off site. That'll be interesting. You mentioned Jackie Robinson's Day, and of course, MLB this year got the idea to let's put out a hat for that. So now they're going to have a patch. It's just a patch added to the hat, but of course, they're marketing that now as well. So lots of stuff coming up, Rich, and something new that Major League Baseball is trying this year. They're going digital for a small time, and it's they're going to go on Facebook. Rich, Facebook is going to broadcast 25 games,
Uh huh.
a weekly broadcast, one a week. In fact, we're going to be Wednesday. The Mets and the Phillies are going to be the first one on this thing, and it's going to be exclusively on Facebook Watch in the United States via the MLB Live show page, marking MLB's first digital only national broadcast. Every game will also be available globally on the show page, excluding selected international markets. Um, this deal was approved by all 30 major league teams unanimously. And what do you think about that, Rich? It's going to be produced by the MLB Network. No word. I'm trying to read through this real quick. No word on who may be the broadcasters, but as I said, the first scheduled Facebook Watch broadcast this season is a matinee matchup between National League East rivals, the Phillies and the Mets, live from Citi Field on Wednesday, April 4th at 1:10 p.m. And it should be interesting, though. It's going to be a lot of productivity slowed down at work on Wednesday.
Yeah, yeah. That, of course. Don't forget to go up on Facebook and what I did just now, and I thank you, Gary, for bringing this up. I didn't realize that they were had this exclusive deal. Is go up to find in the search box MLB Live and follow it. Right now they have 231,000 followers. So you want to click that following button so you can get the updates from them. You can also set a reminder if you want to watch it on Facebook. And yeah, I think this is a natural progression for broadcasting the game, Gary, as we've talked about in several shows. If we have longtime listeners, they know we've been mentioning that a lot of people have cut their cable connections for one reason or another. Um, Cutting their cable has been a solution to either save money or have more money for other events, or maybe they don't watch TV enough and they just want to have internet around the house or their cell phones for that matter, um, their mobile devices. You can now watch games, whereas before, and I've talked to a few of these people over the winter, Gary, and I didn't realize it because I haven't cut my cable. Um, and I don't plan to, but a lot of people have. So they're cut off from the game completely in most instances if they're not listening to the game on the radio or something like that. So now Facebook is going to come to the rescue maybe and bring some more viewers back.
Well, yeah, and we'll see how it goes though, because as I said, it could be a lot of people could be getting in trouble at work for watching this, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
You're
know, in traffic, checking out a thing. We'll see if accidents go off and
yeah. You
things
never know.
like
I mean,
that. But it should be a cool thing. I happen to sneak in opening day because of the way that SNY is set up. Now, for the Mets games, I can actually get it on the NBC Sports app
yeah,
anywhere. And I was actually watching opening day at work. I was doing my work too, but on the side, I had my little iPad there, uh,
uh,
watching the ball game, and I'll do this on Wednesday. And yesterday, I was watching a little bit of the game as we were having a bite to eat. So, pretty cool that you can do that on the phone. Though the wife doesn't like it too much all the time, but
yeah.
hey, you're gonna drag me out shopping in this ball game, then you got to suffer the consequences.
That's true. You got to take the game along with you sometimes. And, in the old days, we used to have the transistor radio
Really?
playing. That still is me on the road. If I'm on the road, I almost prefer to listen to a game via either Sirius XM or if I'm local, the local broadcast. But yeah, it's great that baseball's back. Facebook coming into play here, and I'm sure Twitter has last year. So games are creeping into social media. I think it's a great thing. I have MLB.TV. I think that's even better for the year. Um, and again, we don't make any money from this, but we'd encourage you to follow us on Patreon and please subscribe to us. But we don't make any money from our referrals, things that we talk about. But Gary, it's been a great show. Happy Easter. I have to go get the grandkids. They're going to have a little Easter egg extravaganza. But you have a great day and a great week, and I can't wait for the next show already.
Yeah, and you do the same, Rich, and we'll see you again the next time.
All right. Have a great day, everyone, and happy holiday. And I will talk to you on the next MLB This Week, the Baseball Talk Radio Show.